Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are going to address my frequently most asked hair questions. And for a lot of these I had intended to do a specific video for, but I just figured why not do kind of a frequently asked questions all answered kind of in one video. Also, I did kind of want to keep things a little bit lighter. I know that there has been so much drama and just so much going on YouTube. So I've actually had a couple of clients ask me like, are you gonna do your truth and are you gonna, and honestly I feel like that I don't need to do this, and frankly I'm not a drama person and I'd rather not feed into it. The only other thing I'm going to say about this issue is that I think the most well done video that I've seen circulating YouTube regarding this issue, and that is Samantha Ravndahl, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. I absolutely loved this girl, not only for her makeup skills and for how just absolutely gorgeous she is, but the way she speaks. She says it like it is, she's blunt. So I'll definitely link her page in that video down below. So if you're wondering what my thoughts are on this issue, 100% she says it. Anyway, let's get into the sole purpose of this video. Alright, so a lot of the questions that I have here are going to range from color questions to kind of salon questions to just overall like silly kind of hair questions, or questions that some people have been like embarrassed to sort of ask because they think it's a dumb question. So basically anything that I've heard that I've either sensed that the client is a little bit uncomfortable or feels bad for asking, or questions that I get asked all the time. I'm basically going to try and get through all of those. So if you guys see me on my phone, I am just, making sure that I hit all of the main ones. Okay, I'm just going to address this one first because this one has been asked quite a few times, and every time they ask, they're like, I know this is so dumb, but like, I need to know, where does hair grow from? And the first time someone asked this question, I was like, what do they mean? And they were like, well, does it grow from the end or does it grow from the root? Because I feel like it has to be from the end, because when we cut the ends, they grow out, so it has to be from the end. And if you don't know the answer to that question, your hair definitely grows from the root, from the scalp. That is the source of where hair is getting its nutrients basically, and that is its home, and that's where it grows out of. That is why when you color your hair, you obviously see the roots coming out on top rather than at the bottom. Then your natural color would be growing on the ends. Now moving on to probably the most misunderstood question. This is regarding toner. And oftentimes people will say, I tried a toning shampoo or I tried a toner at home, and why didn't it make my hair brighter? So let me just say right now, toner will never ever ever make your hair brighter. Technically it's actually making the hair darker because it's adding a film of color to the outside of the hair. But what purple does to yellow is, since they are opposite colors, it kind of cancels out the warmth in the yellow, but it's still going to be the exact same level that it was before. The only thing that's going to make the hair lighter is bleach, and that means to actually remove basically almost a layer of the hair in order to make the hair light. Which then we move on to the next question, which is for anyone that say has blonde highlights and then like a brownish, pretty warmish root, and they'll say like, yeah, I went into a salon to get my hair toned because I didn't like the warmth. And I'm looking at their highlights and I'm thinking, your highlights look really bright to me. Your highlights didn't at all seem like they would need a toner. And then they say, well, no, I meant on my roots. So roots and hair that's been bleached take toner completely different. Toner is made for hair that is, say, lighter than a level 8. So if their hair is any darker than that, toner is not going to work. So the next one is more of a salon question, or a question that a lot of my clients might ask if it's their first time booking an appointment. And that is, can you give me an estimate for what this would cost? And they'll send me a picture of a model and saying, how much does this hair color cost? And the answer for that, there is no actual answer to that question because I don't know what you are starting off with. So if this is your end result but you're starting off with this, it's going to be one price. If you want this result, but you're starting off with this, it's going to be a completely different process that I'm going to have to do to get you to that color. So basically, it's really impossible before having met you or seeing your hair in person to give you an exact estimate. So what I have my booking person do is sending you a price sheet. And I know that if you're not a hairdresser, you're not going to know if you need a toner or a dusting or a root touch-up or whatever. It's still going to give you more or less of a ballpark of what your appointment would cost. You can see whether someone's haircuts are 20 bucks or 75 or 200. It just kind of gives you a feel for like what you're going in for. Okay, the next one, I know that this definitely will upset some people. I know that I've definitely been one of those people to believe in this. And obviously before I was a hairdresser, and that is when you want your hair to grow out, to not cut it. And I know it really does sound just completely counterintuitive. If you want length and you want your hair to grow, why would you cut it? And I totally get it. It sounds like it would make sense, but I can't stress enough that dry damaged hair, A, is not pretty, and B, it is not going to grow to its fullest potential. But basically, a healthy strand of hair starts growing out of the follicle. It's solid all the way to the bottom. It starts growing, then it starts to get some heat. It starts, to get some wear and tear. There might be some coloring processing going on. And so once all of that stuff happens to the hair, also depending on how strong your hair is naturally, meaning the kind of just the dimension of the hair. Do you have really thick hair? Do you have really fine, thin hair? So the thinner the actual hair is, the more susceptible it is to breakage and to anything else. Just imagine basically a thin string versus a very thick rope. Thick rope is obviously going to take a lot more than the thin string. And so basically when that strand of hair starts getting a lot done to it, and so it starts to kind of unravel almost the way a rope would. And so it starts to split, and of course it splits at the bottom because that's kind of its weakest point, so it starts to split. The first stage is just one single split, then you can have multiple splits, then you can start having hair that basically looks like Christmas trees, and we definitely don't want that. So whenever someone has really dry damaged hair, and this is even when you blow dry it, even when you flat iron it, it still looks really frizzy, still looks really dry, that's normally at this stage here. If you were to cut it where all that damage is, you're still left with the very healthy hair. But the more damage there is, the more you're going to have to cut off. So ideally what you want to do is to cut it when it gets to this first stage. So basically nipping it right where it starts to be a problem. Whereas if this starts to really break and you never cut it where it needs to be cut, basically this little fine piece at the end is not going to make it. So in a couple weeks that will break off. In another week or so, the next one will break off, and so on and so forth, until in 1 month you probably lose about 2 inches of hair. Obviously, this is a slight exaggeration. I'm just trying to kind of explain to you at the rate it can happen. So basically, if you're cutting off, say, 1/8 of an inch every month, which is very often, the average person will cut their hair between 6 and 8 weeks. If you are doing so, even if you take off just 1/8 of an inch, you are really just taking care of all of those dry, damaged ends. So that means that in a month, you will have grown out more than you've removed, if that makes sense. So if you keep doing that, if you think about it, in a year, you will have so much more growth than what you have cut. But if you don't cut your hair at all, and unless you were blessed by having super gorgeous, thick, luscious Pocahontas hair, most likely at the end of the year, if you have not cut your hair, you will have lost more than you have naturally grown. I have a lot of clients say too that like, well, my hair just doesn't grow. It's always been like this. I don't expect it to grow. And they have roots to here after 6 weeks of me coloring their hair. So clearly your hair has grown that much, but your length down here is exactly the same as it was 6 weeks ago. So that means that yes, your hair in fact is growing, it's just you're losing it at the ends due to the dryness and kind of status of the hair. The other thing is, what is a dusting? And I get this asked all the time. I have talked about it on my channel quite a bit. And for those girls that are afraid of losing length but do want to combat all of that dry split ends, then what you need is a dusting. Basically, when you look at hair, the damage is always at the ends, but not all of your ends end at the same spot, and that's where we have an issue. So if I were to curl my hair kind of around my finger this way, I could probably grab one hair that doesn't make it all the way to the end here. And so that means that that hair has not made it. It could be new hair, it could be hair that has already snapped off. Regardless of what it is, those ends also need to be kept up. And so if my hair is down to here, every time I get a haircut, if all I cut is the ends, you've not done anything to this little hair that's halfway there. So what a dusting is addressing all of the ends of your hair. But if you're doing just a dusting and not a cut as well, you will leave with essentially feeling like you have the exact same length as when you came in, but you have tackled every single one of your ends. So basically the technique is just wrapping the hair around your finger like that. And if you can see any hair that sticks out, you cut the end of that. Then you move down a little bit more. And you see how I have just a few more? I don't know if you guys can actually see that, but that is a perfect split end right there. So, and hopefully you guys can see this as well as I can see it in the viewfinder. See? Healthy ends now. So what's going to end up happening is that that hair is going to grow healthy, shiny, and because now it's back to its like strongest potential. All right, so for the next one is, does blonde your fade? And so we already talked a little bit about toners today. And basically in order to be blonde, you're basically over a level 6 or a level 7 or lighter. So once you've gotten someone to the more end of the scale, that is never going to fade away, because basically what you've done with bleach is basically etch out parts of the hair in order to expose a lighter hair that is basically underneath. So imagine a cucumber and how it has the green skin on the outside, and the green is right now the brown part of the hair. Now if you take a carrot peeler and you kind of just start etching out all the skin, what's going to happen? It's going to expose the kind of white cucumber fleshy color that's on the inside. So it's no longer the green on the outside, now you've exposed what's on the inside. And that's essentially what bleach is doing to your hair. So once you've removed that, that brown or whatever color you started with is not going to grow back. You've already removed it, you've killed it, it's gone. What you are left with is the lightness underneath. Now, if that blonde ever does change color or become a little brassy or slightly a little bit not as vibrant than it was when it first was done, that's because when you remove that pigment with bleach, the hair essentially has been left with holes. And because of those little holes all over the hair, through all the elements that we expose our hair to, the hair acts as a sponge and picks up everything from air to debris to oils to hair products, and it kind of harbors them in the hair, and that's what actually ends up making your hair look a lot more dull and a little bit darker than when you first got it done. But the answer to that question is blonde never fades. If you guys are still listening, thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so by just clicking that red button down below. It helps me make new videos for you guys, and it also helps me understand what type of videos you guys want to see. Also, if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I hope you guys have learned a thing or two from these frequently asked hair questions, and I do hope that you guys keep faith in not just myself, but other good, honest YouTubers that, you know, I know there's still a lot of them out there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.